I failed to take off the drug-free Hardee. This is Riverview Heights Baptist Church. How many of you have never been through this series? All right, we got some that have never been through the series. Good. Well, I'm glad you're here for what we're going to be doing, because here's the situation. Honestly, most people don't know themselves. They don't know why they feel the way they do, why they react and act the way they do. And so because of that, some people are dead serious most of the time. I can sit up here on this little pew and look out and watch during the song service, and the different expressions are so expressive. You know, we've got some people that are smiling, some people that are singing, and some folks are just like that. Now, there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that we're different. And so we've got folks in here tonight. You're serious all the time. I mean, I don't know. Funny is just not real important to you. And there are other folks, funny is really a big part of their lives. And then there are some people who are silly a lot of the time. They can't be serious at a funeral. You know, they just cutting up and goofing around all the time. Now, can the serious guy be annoying? Can the silly guy be annoying? Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same thing, P-Rose. Thank you. Exactly right. I don't see a thing wrong with that. But then there are some people that they're addicted to working projects. Well, here's what happens. The family's watching TV, right? Commercial comes on. This person jumps up and goes empties the dishwasher, folds a load of clothes, vacuums the house, washes the car, comes back just in time for the second half of the show. And then there are other folks that they never move. They're comfortable. They don't want to get up. They've got their tea. They've got whatever it is. And so then you've got some folks like that. And then you've got some people that are addicted to naps and relaxation. Oh, yeah, we'll do this tomorrow. Tomorrow is the busiest day in the world for some people. Tomorrow, if they did everything they planned tomorrow, the sun would never set on tomorrow with some people. All right? Now, there was a guy by the name of Hippocrates, and probably everybody in here has heard of Hippocrates. But Hippocrates lived during the ministry of Malachi and Nehemiah. Now, that tells you how old this guy was. This is about 450 B.C., and he believed he was what we know as the father of modern medicine. As he dealt with people, Hippocrates found that there were 4 basically different kinds of people. And he mistakenly believed that people's temperaments was determined by the color of fluid in their system. You got red fluid, you got green fluid, you got yellow fluid. If you had too much red fluid, that's what caused a fever. And so even up until around the 18th century here in the United States, guess what we would do if somebody had a fever? We would bleed them, exactly. So we would take the blood out, lower the temperature. Well, that was a faulty medical position, and now we know that. But he called these fluids humors, right? And and science even stood behind this. I mean, for centuries, that there were different colors of body fluid that determined your health. And so, for instance, these are Hippocrates terms. Now, there are a lot of different ways to explain the 4 different temperaments. You've got your type A. For kids, they've got the animals. They've got the otter and the golden retriever. I use the original terms because I love the language and what's housed in them. But sanguine means blood. And so the sanguine is a person that is warm and friendly and just like blood is warm. And so we've got some folks in here, you're sanguine. This is your temperament. This is your dominant temperament. Now you're going to have a secondary as well. And so you will have a dominant temperament, and then you're going to have some supplemental parts of the other 3. And then there's the choleric. I don't know if you can even see that, but that's yellow, choleric, C-H-O-L-E-R-I-C. Daniel talks about the ram that was full of choler that ran into the goat. And so the yellow bile, this is an extrovert. This guy is unemotional. This is your worker bee right here. This is the guy that gets up in the morning and he's got his plan already mapped out. He's already got his tools, he's ready to go to work. This is a guy that's looking for something to do all the time. Relaxation basically is a waste of time. God made seconds in the day for work and production. Sleep if you have to, but work because you have to. All right? Then there was the third gentleman or lady, melancholy. And melancholy was black bile, according to Hippocrates. And these were introverts. These are job-oriented. These are very emotional. They're sensitive people. They get depressed very easily. They're perfectionists. And their motto in life is, if you're going to do it right. If you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. And so these are the people it takes them a long time to make a decision because they've got to go online. They've got to look up all of the websites. They've got to get their charts, their graphs. They've got to get their tablets out and get all the data put together. Whereas the choleric guy made a decision 20 minutes ago. And most of the time, you guys are right. Most of your choleric decisions are right. Not all the time. And this becomes a weakness to you because you think you're right all the time. You're not. The melancholy is this perfectionist, and if you're in this temperament type, it is from this section of the temperament strata that I hesitate to say it, but it's true. The geniuses come, the musicians, the artists, the writers, the thinkers, the actors, the great dramatists come from the melancholy temperament. And then the last one that we'll look at is the phlegmatic, and yes, that's where we get the word phlegm from. And these phlegm means slow moving, and very quiet. How can I say this? Stubborn. If you push them, they dig their heels in a little deeper. They have a very sarcastic sense of humor. They will whack you up and you will never even know it. It'll be like, you remember the old swashbuckling movies? Old Errol Flynn would whack the candle, and his enemy would say, you missed the candle, and then he punches it and it falls over on the floor, so he didn't miss it at all. And so here we go. We've got sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic. You are one of those as a dominant, and you have others of these in varying degrees as your secondary temperament. Now, let's look at the personality picture. To make these terms easier to remember, and I need all the easy I can get, there's the popular sanguine. Everybody loves a sanguine. Go to a party, and if you see a sanguine, people are going to be around the sanguine, laughing, joking, slapping them on the back. They are your hoorah, sparkly. They are the life. They enter a room mouth first. They usually wear colorful clothes. They have everything about them just screams, me, 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 look at me. They love to be seen. They wear crazy glasses. They wear the crazy hairdos. They're stuck on what they look like. And so there's your sanguine. So you're very popular. Then there are the powerful cholerics. These are the people. Now, the sanguine's motto in life is, if you're going to do it, let's have fun. Let's laugh. We're going to enjoy this. Now, the choleric is not interested in laughing and having fun. His motto in life is, do it my way right now. Right now. And you may live. Yeah, you may live if you do it my way now. And then you've got your perfect melancholies. Now, these people make great bookkeepers. They make great doctors because they're going to analyze the situation and they're going to put so much time putting it together. They make great dramatists and people that, if you have a job that requires real close perfection, please don't get a sanguine to do that. You know, I don't know that I would want a sanguine surgeon, you know, come in and say, hey, man, we're going to take something out. Whoa, you know what? Yeah, we're going to take something out. But I'd like to have somebody that knows what we're going to do. We're going to go in, we're going to move your liver out of the way. You know, they know exactly what's going on. And then you've got your peaceful phlegmatics. And these are the folks that they're utility infielders. They can fit anywhere because they never say anything. They're quiet. They're low-key. We had one in our family. Jamie and Lorraine had one in their family. and you can come up with the most wonderful Saturday morning activity for we're going to go to Disney, and then we're going to go over to Epcot, and they're like, okay. You know, they don't care about your powerful plans, and they'll do everything to just try to slow you down because they're already slowed down, and they want you in their pace. And so, but we need all four of these. If everybody in the world was a sanguine, we'd laugh and have a good time, but we wouldn't get anything done. If everybody in the world was choleric, we wouldn't have any fun, but we'd get a whole lot of work done. It wouldn't be a very fun place to live. If everybody was a melancholy, we would be perfect, but we would be boring. If everybody was a phlegmatic, we wouldn't get anything done, and we'd be perfectly happy with that. There'd be nothing wrong with that. And so we've got to have this mix. Now, the complete picture is the bright flowers. That's your sanguine. Steve Martin. You remember Steve Martin? Just crazy, loony all the time. And he was a sanguine, dealt with some depressive issues that nobody knew about. But then you've got your corners that hold everything together. And those of you in here that are cholerics, you probably are the ones that have held your family together through the years. You probably are the ones that held your business together, your job, your church. We need these people that hold these corners. You know, they're not squirrely, they're not random. And then you've got the straight edges. You got to have this thing in line, and the melancholies are there. Well, no, wait now. Here, let's take a look at this in the overall picture. And so they're your perfectionists. And then the blue skies that can just move randomly, and they just don't seem to have any specific purpose in life. They appear lazy because they are. Okay, now just go ahead and put it out there. They're just not. They're not motivated when it comes to work and and production concern. But everybody has a critical role to play. You are important in your family. You're important in your church. You're important in your community, in your country. You play a critical role. And so nobody is more important than anybody else. Now, if you're sanguine, you're not more important than the phlegmatic. If you're choleric, you're not more important than the melancholy. You're not. You're different. It's like on a football team. Who's more important, the center or the quarterback? Try to have an offensive line without the center, and you've got a 318-pound middle linebacker right in front of your quarterback. Good luck with that, all right? And you say, well, the center doesn't make as much money. No, you're right. But he's why the quarterback is still alive. And so you need that guy. And so everybody plays a role. So don't let anybody ever tell you because you're not them, you're not important. Why can't you be more like me? Well, that's impossible. That's just not going to happen. And so it was believed that this temporary imbalance of humors was the cause of sickness. If you had too much blood, you were fevered. If you had too much yellow bile, that's what caused you to cough. If you had too much black bile, that caused depression. If you had too much phlegm, that caused a cold. Now, some of these kind of make sense. Phlegm doesn't cause a cold, but you can get it if you have a cold. And so Hippocrates did see some things that were pretty much true, but he misinterpreted some things, as a matter of fact. And so he was wrong, yes. We don't have different colored fluids that determine our temperament. Yes, that was wrong, but with a little bit of right. And here's what I mean by right. We don't adhere to this imbalance of humors theory anymore. Nobody does that. We don't also call them humors anymore. We call them hormones. Now, question. They're also referred to as neurosecretions, which they're brain secretions. Do hormones impact your behavior? Do hormones impact everybody's behavior? Yeah. Girls? Does that look familiar? Yes. When your hormones are raging or when they're out of balance, we even have a thing today called hormone therapy. You got to have them. But if they're not right, you're in trouble emotionally, and so is basically everybody else that you come into contact with. So was he wrong? Yeah, he was wrong. But was he right? Yes, it does impact our behavior. Now, there are two categories of people that we're going to be dealing with over the next few weeks. And the first will be the category of the sanguine and choleric. And these are extroverts. Y'all know what an extrovert is. They're outgoing. They are loud. They are your people. They are your handshakers, your back slappers. That's that group. All right? There are two extroverts out of the four, the sanguine and the choleric. Now, they are extroverts for two completely different reasons. The sanguine wants to be up on the platform for what reason? To entertain, exactly. Hey, have y'all heard about the one? They want to entertain. They want to make everybody laugh and feel good. Now, the choleric wants to be behind the microphone for what purpose? He wants to control the thing, exactly. He ain't interested in you laughing at him. Just do what he says do. And so these are two extroverts. Now, we also have the condition of the introverts. That's the melancholy and the phlegmatic. The melancholy, this is your genius. These are your workaholic type people that just want things done right. They don't want to be on the platform. They will get embarrassed. I've gotten in trouble before putting people's names in the bulletin for doing stuff that I thought was a great thing. And after, don't put my name in there, please. Again, I'll do the work, but I just don't want my name. And so, and they do a good job, but they just want to be recognized for it. These are very depression-oriented people. They can be depressed. I'll give you a quick example. Here's your sanguine. They're happy, they're sad. They're happy, they're sad. They're happy, they're sad. Then there's lunch on the same day. All right, with a melancholy, they're happy, they're sad, and here's Christmas. They can get depressed in some instances all their lives, and they never get out of it. And if you ever offend a melancholy, God bless you. It takes a direct act of the grace of God to get a melancholy to forgive you if you let them down, if you hurt them, if you betray them in any way. And so they're introverted. Then we've got the phlegmatic. We have the phlegmatic, and the phlegmatic is the very laid back, don't ask me to do anything, don't ask me to participate in anything, I'm just really, I need to take a nap. I just need to lay down for a little while. But also, these people make great counselors, because when they hear this horrid, terrible story from somebody in the camp, they're not like, what, you did? Oh, you got to be kidding, you did that, what an idiot. They don't do that. They're calm. And so you kind of want that, when you're in certain situations. And so everybody has a degree of all four of them within them. I am not melancholy at all or choleric anywhere in my life except when I'm teaching and preaching. The other times of my life, I'm not. But now when I'm doing what I'm doing right now, there's a right, there's wrong, there's black, there's white, there's yes, there's a no. It's this way and it's not that way. Jesus is the Son of God. He is not just a good teacher, and so I reject that kind of thing. And so you have the same situation going on in your life. There are certain situations you will be in that your sanguine will come out. And you're like, whoa, where did that come from? That's not normally me. You're right. That's not your dominant. That's just one of your secondary types. What temperament type was Jesus? He was the perfection of all four of them. And one of the really good studies in Scripture, it's fun and entertaining and informative. Go through Scripture and find where Jesus was sanguine. Find where he was phlegmatic. Find where he was melancholy. And find where he was phlegmatic. And he was in certain situations in his life. And so the degrees that you are, these things will determine what is dominant and what is secondary in your particular situation. All right? Now, in addition to the extrovert, introvert, how many of you, let's just stop here real quick. How many of you consider yourself an extrovert? Okay. How many of you consider yourself an introvert? Okay. So we've already got a division here. Now, let's look at the second division. There's the organizational relational continuum. The cholerics and melancholies, you're organized. Stacy Harris is the most organized person I know. And she used to be worse than she is now, she tells me. I've touched a life. But she's incredibly organized in everything she does. And some of you are that way. Your clothes are organized in the closet by season, by color, by short sleeve, long sleeve. I've got a buddy that does, and this is just sick to me, but he's got his suits and his shirts, you know, and he's got here's a suit and here's a shirt. This suit goes with this shirt. And so when he wears it, it goes to the back of the line. He washes this and gets this clean, and it's like shark's teeth, you know. That drives me nuts. Anyway, you got your organizational, and then you have your sanguine and your phlegmatics. These are more relational. Now, they won't know where the checkbook is. Please don't ask a sanguine to do your check. You know, they'll lose a checkbook. I don't know where it is. I have no clue. And so they're very unorganized when it comes to specificity. But if you want somebody to be able to communicate friendliness and relationality to somebody, this is who you want. You go out to Walmart, the greeter. There's a gentleman out there now. I love the guy's name is Leonard. And Leonard, just a great guy. And every time I go, he's a Christian man. And I'll talk to him, and he's just wonderful. And then you've seen some that, you know, you'll go in, and they're kind of like, can you wipe your feet, please? You know, no smile. And it's almost like, oh, my word. And so they don't have any business being where they are, at least at that point. And some people love people, and some people use people. They're just like little tools to get jobs done. And then there are other folks that are, they can get lost in the details of somebody's personality and the story, their family, their kids, and maybe not get the job done, but they had a good time anyway. So there's some people right there. And then there's some people right there. And you are one of those, all right? And we're going to break this thing even further. One word overview. Sanguine's a talker. They just are. Sometimes we have information, sometimes we don't, but it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. We can talk with or without information. It just doesn't matter. Then there's the choleric. There's the doer. This guy right here. If you ask him to do something, get out of the way. All right? Because he's going to get it done. And we've got other folks in here just like that in your particular field. Then we've got the phlegmatic. They'll watch you work all day. They'll just sit and enjoy what you're doing. And then there's the melancholy. This is the thinker. Well, we'll get our plan put together, and I don't have everything together yet. The choleric's already made the decision, and more than likely they're right. But the melancholy, they don't make quick decisions because they don't have all the information yet. And so there's your sanguine. They're the ones always taking selfies and posting selfies and talking, and they're your person's people. And you got your worker, and then he's coming. Hold on there. Okay, there he is. You got the guy he's just laid back. And then you've got your thinker. These are the people that when they were a kid tore their toys apart to see how they worked. And now they love tearing stuff apart to see how it works. And other folks are like, well, I don't care how it works as long as it works, right? And so now, on day 6, God did something absolutely incredible. And what he did, he took dirt, folks, dirt. I don't know how to make that any simpler. He took dirt, inert matter, and he made the most complicated, intricate form of life in the universe. He made us. Now, we are nothing like Adam was, intellectually and physically. Nothing. We have degenerated, you can imagine. If you take a copy and put it on the copier, the first few copies are pretty sharp, and then you take those copies and make copies of those, and then take those. After a while, you get down to the 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th generation, it's going to start to fade on you. Can you imagine what Adam and Eve were like? The original, not the copies, but the original man and woman. Could you imagine their mentality and the strength physically and all of those. And so we've degenerated quite a bit. We were equipped with some things that the animal kingdom didn't have. We had capacities. In other words, no animal knows there's a God. No animal can communicate with a human being like a human being can communicate. Now, I know we love our animals. I'm aware of that. And people get, I think, a little ridiculous in their relationship with animals. They're not your children, okay? They're animals. Now, are they loving? Yeah, we love them. We do. But they ain't your kids. They're your pets. But we were equipped with this capacity called spirit. And that means that we know there's a God. That's one of the proofs that there's a God, is you know. You can have cognition. You can have intellectual consent. Yes, there's a God. On the other hand, animals act by instinct. Who teaches a spider how to weave a web? Who does that? Where do they go to school? Do they go online, web.com, website? Where do you go to find that out? You know, they come instinctually embedded with the capacity to, we don't do that. I didn't know my name was Jim until somebody called me. I didn't know how to do anything. I've learned everything culturally. I grew up in my home. I learned how we celebrated Christmas and New Year's, and I learned how we dressed, and I learned what we did on Sunday, and I learned all that from my family. You did too. The normalcy of your life was embedded into you by your culture. And so we don't do anything by instinct. We do everything because we've learned it either from the Word or from our culture around us. Now, life's purpose, Matthew chapter 5 and verse number 16, one of the most important statements concerning the purpose of man, that we are to let our light so shine that men may see your good works. Lost men see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. And the word glorify means to form a proper opinion of. In other words, it is our responsibility as Christians to define God to our culture. How does the culture know God is a God of love? Because it says it in the Bible. Yes, it does. Is there another way that that can be proved? Yeah. How about being loving? All right. How do we know that God's a God of forgiveness? It says it in the Bible. Yes, it does. But when that's coupled with a life, oh, wow. You know, the impact of that is heightened tremendously. People need to see somebody living the Word. Not just being a hearer, but being a doer of the Word, to mesh these things together in our lives. And so the believer is to so live that people can see our good works, and here's what happens. We're to multiply. We're to touch a life. We are to impact people we work with, family members, neighbors. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to walk around the neighborhood knocking on doors and handing out tracts. That's not the only way to witness to somebody, okay? It might be a good way to witness. Somebody's dog gets out and comes over in your yard. Well, instead of fussing and fuming and calling animal control and having her dog picked up, catch her little dog. Take them back. Hey, I think this is your dog, you know. Do something that would let them know you're a good neighbor. Now, could that be the opening of a door for a deeper conversation later? So now, if I'm a jerk to my neighbor and then I invite him to church, what kind of an impact do you think that's going to have on him? No, I'm busy. We're separating socks on Sunday because I've not set that up real well with my life. All right, let's look at a psalmogram. Y'all know what a sonogram is, but look at Psalm 139. Some of the most amazing terms that you will ever hear in the Bible are found in Psalm 139. All right, let's begin reading with verse number 13. It's like David has this machine, and he's going to give us a psalmogram. He's going to look at the womb of this pregnant woman, and he's going to give us some information. For instance, look at verse number 13. He says, "Thou hast possessed my reins. That doesn't mean that he owned your horse. What does that mean? The word possess means to form, to knit, to put together, to create. And so he has created my reins, and reins is an old English word for internal organs or the inward parts. And so what we've got now, verse number 13, God has formed my organs. Okay? Then he says, you have covered me in my mother's womb. So now we know where we're talking about. We're in the womb, and the word covered means to weave. So where is all of this construction going on, this creating of a human being? Where's that happening? It's happening in mom's womb. That's the workshop where the Lord is knitting and weaving and needlepoint and whatever else people do to create that kind of thing. And he's done this through the DNA. The twisted helix. It looks like a ladder that's twisted. Deoxyribonucleic acid is the building block of life. And the first cell that is created or that is built by the DNA is a neuron. It's a brain cell. And so the brain cell then reads the rest of the blueprint that's in the DNA. All right, say eyes go here. Okay, we need blue eyes. All right, we need ears here. And so the brain builds itself. And eventually you've got this little body that is ready to be born. All right, then in verse number 15, he says, my substance was not hid from me. The word substance is the word skeleton. So as the fetus is developing in the womb, guess who's watching that develop? God is watching the little skeleton grow and develop, and all that's happening in the womb. In the lowest parts of the earth, according to verse number 15. That's kind of an odd phraseology, but in the Hebrew, it means uterus or womb. So the lowest parts of the earth is referring to the womb of a woman. This is where all of this construction of the human body is going on. So verse number 16, thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect. The word unperfect is the word zygote or embryo. Yet being unperfect. And in thy book all my members or limbs, fingers, toes, ears, arms, legs. God keeps an inventory of everything he wants that particular child to have. And so this is pretty advanced technology here in Psalm 139. David didn't have a clue about any of this stuff on his own. God revealed this to him, what was going on inside the mother's womb, and he's written that down for us now. And so this is some pretty contemporary terminology. Now, here's where we're going to set up camp. Look at Proverbs 22, verse number 6. Proverbs 22, 6. Sometimes the Bible says what you don't think it says. And especially, I'm a KJV guy, and King James English is not 21st century English. You can read words and they're like, what? And we're going to read one of those right now. Actually, it means the exact opposite of what is said. All right, now look at verse 22. Proverbs 22, verse number 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Now that's where we're going to start. So we're going to look at some words. The word train means to aim, like a gun. So if you are a good shot, you're going to eat your game meat. If you are not a good shot, you're going to have Chick-fil-A. All right, so you've got to be able to shoot straight, or you're not going to be very successful as a hunter. So kids are like guns. They can be dangerous. They can be high-powered. They need to be aimed at the right thing. So who does the aiming? Well, according to Scripture, the family does that. Mom and dad, they are the principal aimers of that child. Now, what's happened in our culture, the school has become the one that aims the child. The culture at large, the internet, the music, our friends become the principal hands on the direction that child is aimed. Terrible strategy. The word child, I love the word child. It means the one who screams or yells. Isn't that great? Your kids ever scream when they were a little bit if you had kids? Sure they did. They probably got within 20 minutes of birth they were screaming. For what? Why does a 2-year-old scream? The Scripture says they scream, there's nothing wrong with them. And they do. And so that's a perfect word for them. And so aim the screamer, all right? Aim him at the right target according to his way. And the word way is the word bent or shape. We're all bent in a peculiar way. Everybody in here, from P-Row, imagine that. He's got a bend to him. It's a twist. Good word. All right, he's twisted. Very good word. Excellent. So, everybody's twisted differently. You have a different shape. All of our kids, all of us, we are all different. And if you had 2 children, you could not raise them the same way. Y'all had 2, completely different, right? You couldn't discipline the same way. You couldn't encourage them the same way. And so you do this according to their shape. Now, what does that require as a parent? If I am to train my child according to his shape, what does that mean I have to know? I have to know what his shape is. Exactly. I need to know what he is. Is he sanguine? Is he choleric? Is he melancholy? Is he phlegmatic? What is he? And then I apply different disciplinary methods and training methods. I aim him according to his temperament. Then, when he's old, and the word old is the Hebrew word to shave the face. We're not talking about chronologically aged. If you make a kid go to Sunday school all of his life, he's going to leave church. We all know that. And he's going to go out and he's going to live in the world. And when he's 75, 80 years old, he's going to come rolling back into church for the last 2 years of his life. That's not what that teaches. And I've heard that preached. What it means is, if you will train a child according to his God-given temperament, then when he reaches puberty, okay, when he begins to make his own decisions, guess what? More than likely, he will not abandon the way he's been trained, because you caught him in time. Child experts tell us that a child has his basic knowledge of right and wrong established by the time he is 4 years old. So here's the mom and dad, and they got a 12-year-old and say, well, I think it's about time we start going to church. Well, it's a good thing. Get him there. Get there yourself. But, folks, you've got an 8-year gap of battle that you've got to fight now, because he already knows what he's going to do, what he thinks is right, wrong, good, and bad. And it can be done, but it's so much easier to mold the concrete while it's wet instead of waiting until it's cured. All right, so if parents will aim their children in the right direction while they are young, according to their natural temperament, then when they reach puberty, they're not going to abandon that training. That's the promise that we have been given in Scripture. All right, now, discipline and punishment are 2 different things. If you discipline properly, you won't have to punish very often. Now, if all you have to do is punish, that means you're not disciplining correctly. Discipline is where we get the word disciple from. It just simply means to teach or train to do the right thing. And so if I let the school teach my kid the right thing, we're going to have a conflict. All right? Not only with school, but with that kid. Now, there's the screamer. Now, let's look at the origin of the theory. We've already gone through this. Hippocrates is the one that came up with this 4 temperament situation, and it's temperamentum, and it means a right blending of body fluids. And so even in the name, we're holding on to the original, but we don't believe that anymore. And it was the ancient belief that these body fluids were the things that determined your temperament, but we don't believe that anymore, but we do know that hormones do. So, what is temperament? It's your predisposition to act in a certain way. Some of you can get mad just like that. Your powder stays dry. Any little thing happens, your default response is anger. You'll raise your voice. You'll start hollering. You look for somebody to shoot, because certainly it's not your fault. it's somebody else's fault, and you're going to investigate until you find out who did this big piece of stupid. And so you have this predisposition to react in a certain way. And then there are others that won't take anything seriously or don't take enough seriously. Now, can that be a problem? Well, sure it can. Sure it can. You know, not everything is funny. Not everything is ha-ha. I remember years ago, say she'd be dealing with a checkbook or something, and she'd have a real problem trying to get it straightened out. And I would think of the world's funniest thing to say. And guess what I did? I said it. And I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this, but there have been a few times when I've gotten this. I am not in the mood for your stupidity. Yeah. Hurt my feelings. I mean, it just hurt my feelings. And there's a predisposition that you have that pushes you to act in a certain way. Now, temperament is a part of your total personality, okay? And here's parts of the other. You have strengths and weaknesses. Your weaknesses are your strengths carried to extreme. This is one of the more important things that you'll learn in this series. Everybody has weaknesses. Now, if you want to know what your strength is, find your weakness and back into your strength. All right, let's just walk through this real quickly. Sanguine. What is the strength of a sanguine? They're relational. They're funny. They tell great stories. They have undeveloped memories. They're not organized. They're not detailed, but they are drop dead funny. Can that be a weakness? I mean, really? Yeah, evidently, exactly. In all reality, yes. I know I can probably be annoying. Because I find, especially when we get together, put your hand over your mouth. It's like nothing is serious. Nothing. And that can be annoying. Piro or Joanna and Stacy just roll their eyes and leave the room. It's like, just leave the puppies alone. Let them pee on the rug, whatever they want to do. But yeah, I understand that can be annoying. And so I need to keep in mind that not everybody is that. And so your weakness is your strength out of control. All right? Now, is it nature or nurture? Well, it's actually both. The total personality includes the following: your family of origin. Now, there are some people that were raised by parents who were not very affectionate. They don't remember being hugged and cuddled and kissed and oogled over. They weren't that way. Mom and dad just didn't do that. And so they grew up thinking this is normal. And then they go spend the night with a buddy or a girlfriend, a little girl spending the night with a girlfriend of hers, and mom and dad just can't keep their hands off the kid. They're just loving and hugging, and they're like, this is weird. No, this is not weird. This is average in that house. And so your family of origin makes a whole lot of difference in how you are looking at life. Your culture. Now, we live in North America. Now, we can dichotomize it further than that. We that are from the South live in the South. We've got some folks that live in the North. Your culture up there is different than our culture here. The way you talk is different. I remember it's been several years ago, one of our snowbird couples, I don't think it's even any that are here now, came to me, and the lady was like, Brother Jim, your children, the kids in the church are saying yes, ma'am, to me. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Okay. She said, well, I'm not that old. And I said, oh, you don't understand. So this got nothing to do with your age. Yeah. This has everything to do. These kids have been taught to respect their elders. And so I had to, and I did. I took a few minutes to explain. It's not a reflection on your age at all. And so I know in the South, that's a big deal, you know. In my house, it was, and probably in y'all's house too, it was, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, please, thank you. I was 14 years old before I figured out my mom's name was not yes, ma'am. You know, she actually had a name. And so your culture, we live here in North America, and our culture is different than Europe. It's different than Africa and Asia. So that's part of your temperament. Then your education has a lot to do with how you view life and look at life. Your unique experiences in life. I bet we have some folks in here that have had some near-death experiences at one point in your life. Somebody in here, more than likely, has been attacked by a dog. Anybody here been attacked by a dog? You been attacked by a dog? Vicki, are you afraid of dogs? No? Oh, she just blew my illustration. You're supposed to say, yeah, I can't stand for a dog. She's one of the few. Normally, when you have an experience like that, somebody nearly drowns. They're afraid of water. You know, so, and I've never been attacked by a dog, and so I don't have a fear of dogs. And so the experiences that you've had that are unique go to help design your temperament and the way you express yourself. And so then you also have your free will to choose. Well, my daddy never told me he loved me, okay? That doesn't have to determine the fact that you tell your children that you love them. So I say I have the free will to be what was never shown to me. And I realize that there are a lot of young men that did not have a very good role model for a dad to show how a man's to treat a woman. I know that. But that doesn't mean he has to grow up and be a bad husband. You know, there are resources. And that's why church is so important. That's why this junior church, what Sarah and Faith are doing in the back with these kids, that's why it's so vital. These are not just Bible stories. They're learning how to live life. They're learning how to interact with people and have contact with people, and the same thing is true in our service out here. All right? Now, what are the four types? Real quickly. Sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic. So, who in the world are you? Hands on hips. So, there's a little bit of explanation. The temperament is the born you. Character is the learned you. Personality is the expressed you. And so this series basically can be one of the keys to helping you understand who you are and why you react the way you do. I have never been organized, and I hate that. I have to force myself to be organized. And it's weariness to me. You know, Stacy's constantly saying, well, not constantly, but she's saying, write that down. I don't want to write it down. That's just, I don't want to write. I'll remember it. No, I won't. I will not. And so last night there were a couple of things. She said, "Want you to get up now? I want you to go in and write yourself a note." Well, I'm watching Gunsmoke, for goodness sake. You don't get up and leave Gunsmoke. You don't do that. But I did. I went in and wrote it down, and now I've got to find the paper I wrote it on when I get into my office. But that's a struggle, and I didn't understand that. I thought I had some kind of a mental deficiency, and then when I got a hold of this, and the Lord said, "No, you have other skills. This is not one of your skills," and it's not. Y'all have suffered with an unorganized pastor for 27 years, and I have tried to be organized. It is a struggle for me. Now, we've got folks in here, it's as easy for you to be organized as it is for me to remember a joke. Now, I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can remember a joke I heard 20 years ago. And so we operate on different cylinders here, which is not a bad thing unless it gets out of hand. I have had that calendar for a long time. Thank you very much. That's not what she meant, all right? So the temperament is just simply a window through which you see yourself and other people. And let me encourage you with this. Once you learn the temperaments and their strengths, you will be a better people person. You can be in somebody's presence 5 minutes, and you know what temperament they are. And if you know what temperament they are, you will know how to encourage and motivate them. Let me give you a good example. Let's finish this slide. Let's say Brother Tom is choleric with a capital C. All right? Great. I love him to death. But Brother Tom's a no-nonsense guy. So if I came up to Brother Tom and said, Brother Tom, I just want you to know you are the craziest, looniest, funniest, most disorganized comedian that I have ever met in my life. He'd look at me just like he's looking at me right now. There wouldn't be a, stop it. Yeah, there wouldn't be any of that. But now, if I went to him and said, Brother Tom, I just want you to know, I appreciate the fact you are the hardest working man I know. And if I ask you to do something, it gets done, and it gets done right. Thank you for that. That is going to fulfill him. So, if you don't know what temperament type people are, you're going to encourage them the wrong way, which will actually discourage them. All right? So if you don't know their weaknesses, if you don't know their strengths, you don't know how to encourage them. 80% of all counseling fails, even Christian counseling. And the reason is this. Most counseling tells you what's wrong with you. Well, here's your problem. If you start doing this and quit doing that, and you need to straighten this up over here, that's why it fails. But if you can tell people what's right about them, I'm telling you, their weaknesses, they'll work on those weaknesses if you tell them what's right about them. And so normally what we do, let's say here's a sanguine husband and a melancholy wife, Miss Perfection and Steve Martin. And they go out to dinner. They go to a party, Christmas party. He's telling jokes, and people are just crying in their tea. He has them laying on the floor. And his wife says something like this. Good grief, don't encourage him. Why not? Why not encourage him? See, what we do, we don't encourage people's strength. And when you don't encourage somebody's strength, you bring out their weakness. See, you determine who you deal with. Now, choleric, strong, leader, well, I'm telling you, they can be formidable. Now, you can either deal with a choleric in his strength or a choleric in his weakness. Which would you rather deal with? You'd rather deal with the ox that can plow and pull straight and get the job done, or one that's been bee-stung? So I would much rather deal with people in their strength and not their weakness. Well, how do you do that? That's up to me. And husbands, it's up to you. I know Stacy is a melancholy choleric in that order. I know how to make her mad. Y'all do too. Y'all know how to make your wives mad. Don't look at me like a calf at a new gate. Every one of you. You know the words to say. You know the things to do that will just boil her pot. Well, now you can deal with that, or you can deal with her in her strength. You say, well, you never know. Well, often that's up to me, and that's up to the individual. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I came across something just last year, a picture that stated, and I thought about this, it said, too often we listen to respond rather than listen to understand.
To understand, yeah. That's good. That's right. That's right. All right, now here's what, yes, sir. Yeah, that's the way God made me. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly right. Thank you, Jamie. All right, Stacey had your hand up. Yes, ma'am. Well, she told her, take your shoes off. Well, she took her shoes off, and she did this little test. Well, Stacy put her shoes back on. And when the doctor turned back around, she said, I told you to take your shoes off. I mean, it wasn't, oh, you need to put your shoes back on. Now, that's the way I would have done it, because I would have felt bad that they misunderstood. But, I mean, it was just like, I told you to put your shoes on. And there was another, and it was kind of funny. I said, yeah, see, that's anyway. All right, here's what we're going to do. Yeah. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. All right, now here's what we're going to do. We're going to take time, and this will be the last thing we're going to do tonight. Go to your quick quiz. I've ordered new pens because we gave all of them out at the fair, so they're not here yet, unfortunately. Wait a minute. Here are a few. Oh, man, we got them all jammed up in here. Who needs a pen? Anybody? There are 4. I'm not sure they all work. All right, here's the way you fill this out. Check as many as apply to you on an average. Not when you're mad or, just your average day, your average way of dealing with it. Check as many in each of those categories as applies to you. Everybody got a pen? Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Now, later on, I'm going to give you a much more comprehensive test. This is a quick quiz. And then put your totals out to the side where it says total. All right, everybody about through? Oh, I didn't even, the sanguine is first. I didn't notice that. I think it's alphabetical. They're in alphabetical order. Oh, they're not alphabetical. Okay, I'm so sorry. All right. Now, how many of you had at least 5 sanguine traits? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. At least 5 choleric traits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, okay. There we go. At least 5 phlegmatic. 1. You got 4? Okay, pretty close. All right, yeah, Nathan to be all. He'd check them all. All right. 5 melancholy. Okay. All right. Anybody have more than that in any category? What'd you have? 9 in choleric. You're a bossy thing, aren't you? Do it my way, right? Okay, all right, so we've got,
I like working with my brother
we've
because he just does it the way I want him to do it.
you just push him around, right? I got you, all right,
Sometimes
I
we
got
get
you.
along just fine.
All right, so we've got 9. Anybody have more than 5 in? 7 in melancholy. 6. Okay. You got 7. Who else got more than 5 in a?
I have 8 in choleric.
8 in choleric. Oh, yeah. I will now. Sure will now. 7 in melancholy. All right. So find your category that has the most. Now, this is not the ultimate test. I've got one later that I'm going to give you that it's much more detailed than this. But let's give you a general idea. Find the one that you have the most checked in. Now, what do you have the second, pardon? Then that will be your top 2 more than likely, okay? Now, I'm telling you, don't say, well, this is what I am. You might not know yourself, all right? The more we get into this, oh, well, that's not me. But look at your top 2 at least, all right? And your top one is more than likely your dominant. And then your second would be your secondary. And then in later weeks in the series, we're going to look at natural temperament birth orders kind of a thing, all right? And so there are some natural combinations, and there are some unnatural combinations. In the last week that we're in the series, we're going to look at the phenomenon of masking. And masking is when people assume a personality that is not naturally theirs because they've grown up in some kind of a dysfunctional situation, alcoholic parent, abusive parent, whatever. And so they did whatever had to be done to keep dad from beating mom or from coming home drunk or whatever. And they just assume this mask. And so anyway, we'll be dealing with that. All right? So you kind of know, yes, sir. Thank you for that. Right. Right. Yep. You're right. All right. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Whenever I worked at the bank, I struggled, and of course, I've done this temperament series since I was a teenager, but growing older, and I guess, I don't even know if it was while we were going, but it just hit me one day. I had a good relationship with one of the girls that I worked with, but I was always going home with my feelings hurt because I always was thinking, what did I do wrong? And why is she always acting that way? Which is really stupid because I've gone through this temperament series forever and ever. But I finally decided one day, and I went to work, and I was like, why is she the way that she is? And whenever I started respecting her, the way that her temperament was, our relationship completely and totally changed, and I started going home not my feelings hurt and everything because I decided that I was going to understand her and her temperament, and that's what I have found and since then that is so important that we not just say, okay, well that person is that, or I'm this way, that you have to deal with me. Like my dad said, you just have to deal with me because that's the way God made me.
Right.
It's to understand where we are, to understand where they are, and respect that. And she had no idea of the issues that I had going home, but the day that I changed that, we actually became better friends and closer, even at work.
Very good. Good testimony, Anna. Well, let's finish with this. When you're in your weakness, that's called in the Bible the flesh. When you're in your strength, that's called in the Bible walking in the Spirit. And you can tell when you cross the line. It'll be very obvious in behavior, attitude, mentality, everything. All right. Thank you all for being here. God bless you. Now, next Sunday night, we'll get into, let's see who, Sanguine will be week 1. And so we're going to unpack. It's not as beautiful as it may sound. They've got some pretty ugly traits about them. And so we're going to look at that next week. Yes, sir. Her what? Her claricity. I've never heard that term. In my life, I've never heard that term. All right. Yeah. You better try to redeem that. You better. Amen. Amen. All right. See you Wednesday night. Yes, ma'am.
We do need to, I need to know, actually tomorrow's the deadline, I think, but, I know we have these papers, but the ladies retreat.
Okay.
First weekend of April, Friday night and Saturday morning. I'm going, I think Stacy's planning on going, I don't know, but anybody that will be here and would like to go.
Okay.
The theme is Wonder Women, and we've got 4 women that are speaking that are really super good.
Well, sometimes I wonder about women, so that'll be good. That'll be good, right? All right. Good. All right, so if you want to go see Lorraine, get signed up for that. You'll enjoy it. It'll be a great weekend, and thank you for mentioning that. Wednesday night, we're kicking Job. We're finishing the book of Job, so we'll get that covered and wrapped up on Wednesday night. Let's bow for prayer. Thank you all for being here. I love you with all my heart, and I appreciate your presence. Lord, thank you for your goodness. We praise you, we honor you, we glorify you as being the only God that has ever been. Every other God started somewhere, at some time, in some perverted person's mind. But you are a God of eternity. We praise you, we honor you. Thank you so much for escorting us to this point in time. We give you credit and praise for it. In Jesus' name, amen.